Okay, awesome. So we are good to go. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if anybody else kind of jumps in here as I'm moving through, this will be recorded, so you can always rewatch this. And the class today is going to be on lead gen through command. So there's a few ways you can actually do your lead gen through command, and I'm going to go over the main bits, which are part of the campaigns applet. So before I get started, I always like to just kind of go through the settings first. And under the settings is where I can go ahead and integrate all the different apps that are working with command in some sort of functionality. And the ones we're going to be really kind of like focused on today, definitely Facebook. Facebook is one that's going to be working with the ad manager. And that's going to allow you to create those sponsored ads that you can use for generating leads, which I'll show you how to do. We also have a couple other things. Command email, that's going to be used mainly for the email campaigns that you put together, which I find to be quite useful. And then I want to just quickly go over the Twilio integration. So when you're setting up your follow-ups, there's going to be a way that you can create automated text messaging, and that's going to be using the Twilio app. So Twilio, it is paid. I think I pay like $3 a month for it. And what happens is you will receive a local number, and you can use that as a way to kind of create your text follow-ups without even having to do it yourself. Essentially, what you can do is create a smart plan around that, and then the smart plan will handle all the texting for you. There's going to be a class a little bit later on this month where I will teach you how to put together those smart plans for those follow-ups. But we're going to be focused mainly on the actual lead gen today. And I will touch upon the smart plans, but I do have a class where I'll go over that in more details. So definitely look out for that on the calendar. So let's jump back. We're going to just jump back to my home screen again. And we're at our dashboard. We're logged into command. So the way that I can get started with any of like my campaigns, if I click that red KW, there's going to be a applet here called campaigns. So I'm going to click on that button. And what's going to happen is it's going to bring me into this screen. And if you haven't been in campaigns before, the new dashboard is basically going to give you an overview of how your campaigns are doing. So you'll see here, as of right now, in the past 30 days, I've spent about $45. The leads that I've generated is 27. I've ran only 2 campaigns. So think about it. I ran 2 campaigns and I got 27 leads out of those. Not bad. And then engagement. Now this is going to be more so about like the likes or the comments or shares. This is going to track all that based on the post. Then what we're going to have when you're starting to put together your goals for the year, the lead tracker in here is actually going to show you how much of a percentage you're at on target for your goal. In this case, I have to generate about 105,000 leads, which is I got a way to go, but we're only in the beginning of the year, so we'll make it work. The other thing as well I like to mention is that you could also connect your accounts in here too. If you forgot to do it through the settings, you can easily do it here. And in addition to that, you can also connect some of these other accounts you'll notice. Google AdWords, I don't typically use that. And I should, because I want to be able to do classes on that as well. But I haven't really used Google AdWords too much yet. But it is there if you have used it before and want to use it. But I'm going to be focused mainly on the Facebook ad manager, which is going to be part of the sponsored posts. And then I also want to show how you can do direct mailing pieces. So in addition to being able to do a paid sponsored Facebook ad, you can also create a postcard or generate a postcard that you can send to a radius. So if you're geo farming in Fort Lee, as an example, and you're geo farming around a specific street address, you can use the direct mailing function in campaigns to do that. And I'll go over that after we do this, the Facebook ads. And then if I have time, I also want to just cover real quickly the email campaigns, because I think that's also very interesting. If I scroll down a little bit more, we're on the dashboard still. This is also going to give me just some top performing campaigns, as you'll see. Very cool stuff. You know, it does give me a good kind of overview of what's doing well. You know, what's the lowest cost per lead currently, most leads I've captured lately. It's very cool. Quick posts, these are going to be more so useful for your social posts that you're not paying for. And this is just content that's generated on the fly. So basically what I did was I just created a post right here. You'll see it's all set up. It's good to go. And I can post that right now and just have like some general content posted on my business page. And then we got some KW Connect resources on the bottom. Very useful. I like to mention this as well. This is great if you're just looking for like a refresher, and it's always available to you directly through your campaigns dashboard. So let's go ahead and click on the top here, create a new campaign. And I'm going to select on this list, this card here, I'm going to select social ad. One thing I like to mention as well, all these tools that you see, when I'm inside a social ad, you're going to notice that the user experience is almost exactly the same for each one of these. So if I'm moving through a social ad or if I'm doing a direct mailing campaign, the user experience is almost exactly the same. So it makes it a lot easier for you to kind of work with when everything is kind of unified in a way, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and we're going to click on social ad. And we're just going to call this a, let's say this is test. We'll just do, let's do 123 Main Street. And we'll do 4-5. And that looks good. Now let's say we're going to advertise this and we want to attract buyers. So what I'll do is I'll do attract buyers. And we're going to select Facebook as a campaign channel. The other thing I also want to mention is that if you are running a Instagram professional page or a professional account, you will be able to run that same ad to Instagram as well, or Facebook. You'll also be able to run it to Instagram. So what I'm trying to say is basically if you have an Instagram set up for a professional account and it's connected with your business Facebook, the ad will be able to run in both spots. It's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and hit setup campaign. We're on our way now. So what's going to happen next, as soon as this loads, and this might take a second, I believe. If it doesn't load, I'll just close it out real quick. Let's just do that. We'll come back. So you start here. This is basically your editor. So on the left-hand side is going to be the fields that I can fill out. It's basically all kind of like fill in the blank. And then on the right-hand side is going to be a preview. So the thing that we can start doing is we can actually connect this with a listing, and we could connect this with any listing on the MLS currently. Just use this one as an example here because I always use it. So it's just going to be my example one. And we're going to select it from the list. And what's going to happen is it's going to kind of like auto-fill a lot of those details for me. So the photos, I have some of the copy here. What's going to happen next is I will be able to put in a headline. We'll just put 1850s dream home now on the market in right. That looks pretty good. We're going to call this, let's say, historic home. So technically it's historic. It belonged to a sea captain, and I'm sure he visited a lot of lighthouses. So that's probably got a lot of cool stories. So the house itself, we're just going to kind of like put out some of those details. And I'm gonna just kind of delete some of this as well. We don't want to give away too much. And I'm just gonna say click learn more for details. And we're just gonna make that the focal point here because we're gonna have them click through our learn more button, which is our call to action. So if you ever see something that says CTA, call to action is what that is. And it's basically a way to kind of lead the person's eye. So in this case, leading their eye to the learn more, to find out more about this home. And the description text here, click to see photos and more. Now, the one thing just to consider as well, when I'm running this as a lead gen ad, this part here is not going to appear. So there's not going to be any sort of preview for this, or where it says CTA link, that's not going to be there either. The reason why is because when you are generating leads through Facebook, you want them to be able to click in it and not see what it is until after they submitted their info. So the idea is that the links that I'm providing are going to be essentially hidden until they submit their information. Kind of like any ad, you know, if you've clicked through an ad before, you always have to submit your info before you can receive something back. So in this case, the link back to the property site is probably going to be where I'm going to lead them to. Now, where it says configure ad media, this is where we select the images. And the images that we have available are also pulling from the MLS. And you'll notice we have these really nice images already available. I didn't have to upload anything. So I'm going to go ahead and just select a few of them. And you have to do it one by one, unfortunately. So I'm just going to go ahead and crop a few. And I'm not going to use all of them. You know, I don't think I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose the ones that I think would be the most appealing, or at least for an ad. So definitely be kind of aware of that as well when you're putting these together. Definitely use images that you think would be the most eye-catching. And this looks good. I'll crop that one as well. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this front exterior to the back. So I want the actual interior shots to be showcased first. So when the ad's running, the first thing they're going to see is this really, really sweet looking interior shot. Looks really good. A question I get quite often is if I'm running an ad for a listing that isn't mine, is that allowed? So I always like to just say, if you are looking to run an ad for a property that's not your listing, I feel like that there is no issue with that. I would definitely ask the agent first, but I feel like there shouldn't be any problem because you're essentially giving them free advertising. You're the one paying for the ad. You're the one generating the leads that could potentially be the buyers for that property. And yeah, again, there shouldn't be any sort of problem with that. But I would always just make sure that I at least mention it to the agent first. Like, hey, just so you know, or if it's all right, I want to run an ad for your property at 123 Main Street. I'm going to be generating leads, and hopefully those leads will be somebody that would become a potential buyer. So I don't see any issue with that, but just, yeah, definitely make sure you've spoken to the agent at least. Some agents do like to do their own advertising. All right, so as we're kind of moving through this, you'll notice that there's a little check that will be appearing next to the options that I've completed. So I've completed the name and goal, I completed my ad text, and I also completed my ad media. So that only really leaves me with one other thing, which is the Facebook and Instagram ads. So if I click where it says configure, I'm going to go ahead and choose the page firstly where I want to run it to. And I'm going to say city views, that's the page. Now what's going to happen next, it's going to ask me where do I want to position the Instagram ad. So there's two different Instagram ads that I can place. I can place it as either just like a timeline ad where it's essentially going to show up in your feed, or you can run it as a Instagram story. So I find that with me at least, the Instagram ads that run through the feed are probably the most eye-catching to me. However, I've noticed a lot more advertising happening in stories, and you may want to run it as a story. So maybe you would rather have that run as a story ad. In that case, you're getting it in front of a lot of people who are scrolling through the stories. Really depends on the target audience that you're working with. I'm going to leave it as an Instagram ad right now. Now with the destination URL, before we get to that, actually, sorry, the destination, it's going to ask you to choose between a Facebook lead gen form and a site or landing page. So a question I get often as well is, what is the difference between these two options? So a Facebook lead gen form, as I explained just a few minutes ago, the lead gen form is going to be where I have somebody click through, they submit their information, and then I lead them back to some sort of link, whether it be a virtual tour or a website or my consumer app link, whatever it winds up being. That would be the follow-up destination URL. But before they get to that, they actually have to submit their info. And Facebook was nice enough to give us an integration where we don't have to generate the actual sign up page. The Facebook lead gen form is already generated for you, so you don't have to worry about it. All right. Now, if you're going to be using a site or landing page, that's a little bit different. It's going to be more so a passive link. And when I say passive, I mean I can just click through the ad and take me directly to wherever the destination URL is. So in that case, I'm just kind of letting them click through and see whatever it is they want, that I want them to see. But the idea is that this is going to be more so for impressions. And the impressions just is like a fancy word for how many people I can get this in front of. So if you're doing it as a site or landing page ad, you're essentially going to be configuring the ad itself to run in front of the most people as possible. And I've seen this happen with agents where they'll run it on as a lead gen form, and they'll have way less impressions than if you're running it as a site or landing page ad, and vice versa. So basically, site or landing page, you're not going to generate any leads or barely any leads, but you're going to get quite a few impressions off of it. So if you're really looking to generate leads specifically, make sure you're leaving it on use lead gen form. Okay. So as we're scrolling down here, the next thing it's going to ask me to do is choose a destination URL. As I mentioned, it can be basically anything you want. You can also choose it from my landing pages I've pre-created, but I can also use some of the information that's available to my marketing profile, like my agent site page or my app link. I'm going to use my app link for this. Just for this example, this property is off market, so I don't have an actual site to pull from. But we're going to go ahead and pretend like this is a new listing, and I'm just going to have that person download my app as soon as they request more information. Okay, so then we get down to add targeting, and this is basically going to say from the people I'm looking to target, where are they going to be located? So I can choose custom settings, and I can say, well, maybe they're looking to relocate from New York. So they're looking to actually move into a different borough, for example. Or perhaps they are from somewhere else in New Jersey. Maybe they're in North Jersey. Maybe they're in Paramus. You know, let's just use Paramus as an example. And it's going to target Paramus with a 20-mile radius. So it's going to give me a nice little net to cast. And that's very on brand with this this fisherman's home, sea captain rather. So we're casting a net in Paramus, and we're going to go ahead and just add some interest as well. So don't be discouraged where it says expert targeting. You don't have to be an expert to do this. When you're adding interest, you're basically just saying like, oh, this person probably is on Zillow, so we're gonna add Zillow as an interest, and we'll add Trulia as well, and then we'll also add Realtor, and whatever else I can kind of think of, which may narrow this audience down a bit. So in this case, they're probably somebody commuting. maybe. They're probably going to be somebody looking up mortgage loans. So mortgage loans is also a popular one. So as that loads, might take a second. Usually, yeah, there we go. And then I'll also say luxury property, because this is a pretty upscale looking property. So we'll use luxury, we'll use vehicle as well. Just select those, we'll hit save. And you'll notice what it does is it adds these little, they're almost like tags, if you want to call it that. So these are your interests. And you can further narrow it down if you want. This is a newer feature. So basically it's going to look for people with these interests. And you can also narrow it down. So I can say, like, I want somebody to have those interests, and I want them also to be interested in maybe architecture or architecture and design. And what that's going to do, it's going to further kind of like very narrow down this audience. And what that's going to do, it's going to give you a higher quality lead, because you're not just targeting anybody, you're targeting somebody very specific. So that's what you also want to make sure you're doing. So again, the narrow audience is a newer feature. They added that button recently. So just as a aside, it's a great way to kind of get your audience further narrowed. Let's go ahead and hit save Facebook ad and Instagram. So then we come to the last step, which is doing our duration and budget. So I'm going to say, I'll run it for 10 days. We'll do a $30 budget. That's the average. Now you can also increase that, which will increase the spend per day. So in this case, if I'm doing $50, it'll spend $250. And this is over 2 channels. So you notice that I have 2 channels selected, Instagram and Facebook. Now, one thing that's also quite useful is you can do automatic placement. And that will allow me to essentially place this ad dynamically between both. And it's going to adjust it depending on which one's doing better. So if the Facebook ad's running better, it will adjust the budget accordingly. It'll never spend over $50, but it's going to adjust it based on where it's going to be placed better. So I like that option available. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit save duration and budget. We're going to go ahead then and hit publish campaign. And then that's going to run for the 10 days with a budget of $50. And it typically takes about a day for those ads to start running. So once the ad is running, you're going to notice that leads will start coming in, and you'll get notified through the Kelly app. You'll also get an email, and there'll also be a notification in your command system as well. And you'll notice I have some leads being generated here. Okay, so the demo that I just showed you is a way that you can use a property and generate an ad for that. Now, let's say you wanted to do some geo farming and you wanted to target a specific town. Let's just use Teaneck because I've already put something kind of together for that. So let's go ahead and go back into the editor. And the editor here, you're going to notice it's exactly the same. You know, we're back in the editor again. Now, I didn't use a listing for this. So you notice that I don't have a listing connected. But what I did was I created a graphic that's giving me some statistics about Teaneck specifically. And what I did was I just put thinking of selling in Teaneck. The market's currently hot and homes are headed for sale quickly. Let me tell you what your home is worth today. Very simple, very straightforward. Headline, the market is hot in Teaneck. Now I can change that as well. Let's say, are you ready to sell in Teaneck NJ? Something like that. And then it's going to say, find out what your home is worth today in today's market. Now, the actual ad media, this graphic that I created that through designs. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new tab. I'm going to go into designs. And I just want to show you real quickly how I was able to generate this particular graphic. So let's go ahead and go back into designs. I'm going to go ahead and create a new graphic. We'll hit next. And I selected social. Sorry, that was the one I selected. So under the design template library, there's something called listings. And under listings, you're going to see here we have a neighborhood snaps option. And I'm going to select here social wide or social square, sorry. And that's going to allow me to choose one of these graphics. Let's just use this one. So it's going to load in and we have our graphic available. We're going to go ahead and just on the typewriter, we're going to say looking to sell in, let's say, Teaneck. There we go. We'll switch that text. You can also double click on it. You can edit it that way as well. I'm going to add my logo and I'll just drag and drop that over. And then we have to switch out this graphic now. So let me see if this works. I was having issues with this the other day. So we're going to check here for a snapshot. We're going to do 07666. And hopefully I can get this because before it wasn't working. Let's take a look. Here we go. Okay. So we have this little card that's generated, and I'm just going to drag it into the template. And now we have our graphic. So basically we just completed that graphic, less than a couple minutes it took me to do. Then what I need to do is save this. Okay, so we saved it. Now I don't have to download it necessarily, but I could. But I'm going to show you how you can just upload it directly from command. So let's go back into my campaign. And the graphic here, we're going to switch out. So we want to update the graphic, right? So we're going to go ahead and hit add more. And I'm going to go ahead and say add images. And I'm going to go browse library. Here's the new graphic. We're just going to select that. And hopefully this works. Cool, there we go. Preview and crop. We're going to keep it as a square. So we're going to change the crop to a square. And we're going to go ahead and hit save image. And we're going to delete the old one. We don't need this old one anymore. And we have the new image there. So it looks good. Now, the setup is exactly the same as if I was doing a one of those attract buyers ads. Now, for me to target a specific area, in this case, Teaneck, the only thing I'm really changing is the ad targeting to Teaneck. And you'll notice I've added the same sort of interests, but all I did was I changed the targeting to Teaneck. So it's going to be focused mainly on people living in Teaneck, which is what we're trying to do with this particular ad. Again, I would do save ad, and then I would go ahead and just choose my duration and budget. In this case, I did $50 again for 10 days. $30 is pretty effective as well. So just because I put 50 doesn't mean it has to be 50. $30 is definitely a really good kind of starter budget, in my opinion, because it allows you to kind of be a little bit modest with your budget and still get a good kind of return, which it does work quite well. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. And again, for me to run this, I would hit publish campaign, and then you are all set. Cool. All right. So the one other thing I want to show, and I'm running low on battery here, so I'm going to try to make this quick. Direct mailing. So you want to put together a postcard, you want to send it to a neighborhood. Now, if we go into create a new campaign again, and I go where it says direct mail, same sort of screens that we're looking at before. We'll put test campaign, and I'll put that as 4, 5. We'll put, let's do advertise listing in this case. And you'll notice you have two options. You have default templates, and you also have a option to upload a template. So if I choose a default template and hit setup campaign, It's going to allow me to choose a listing. And I'm just going to do, I think I used this one last time, 7400 River Road. We'll just use one of these. I think it was this one here. So we're going to use that. We're going to go ahead and just kind of review the details, and it does auto populate because it is using the details from the MLS, which is great. Okay. We're going to select a template size. So you do have quite a few. You have a 4x6, a default, which is 6x9. They have a modern, which is 6x11, and then another one, which is contemporary, a little bit more old school. But I'll do the modern one. That's cool. And we'll save that. Now when we get to the listing images, it's going to pull the images from the MLS again. And we'll just select one of those images. I think I'll use this one. And this one is a little bit low res, so I'm just going to pull one from my computer as an example. We'll use one of these. All right, something fairly basic, but it's okay. It's just an example. We'll hit save. So as I'm doing that as well, all these details and everything that I'm kind of like figuring out, I can preview the card, and it does give you a nice little preview of what it's going to look like. So there's the back, here's the front, just a kind of a preview. Market center information, that looks good. Let's go ahead and just put the state. And as a reminder, as I'm doing this, you'll notice that the user experience is pretty much exactly the same. So we're working with a editor in the middle or in the left-hand side, and then the right-hand side is going to be where like your preview lives. So as we're going down, you'll notice that we can select the amount of cards. In this case, it's 200 cards. We'll keep it like that for now. Targeting, we're going to do local targeting, which means it's going to target around the address. And then we're going to do configure targeting. So we're going to hit create campaign. Now what's going to happen next, it's going to bring me inside of a system called Real Mailers. And Real Mailers is going to help me basically figure out where I want to have this card being delivered. If you'll notice here, it has a bunch of little dots. Those are going to be the areas that it's going to send to. And some of these are buildings. Some of these are going to be single family units. And it's doing its best to kind of target around the area that I am looking to send to. And I can increase this too if I want. Let's just do like 350. And it will adjust that depending on the area. So it's pretty cool. There's also additional filters. So if you want to play around with the filtering, you can do that as well. Let's do this. Let's change the square footage a little bit. Year built, maybe we want something a little bit more modern. The year last sold, you can kind of adjust that accordingly as well. And then we'll also do last sell price, which maybe we want to, something like that, right? So as I'm kind of playing with the filters, it's going to adjust the range, and then it's going to allow me to have a very kind of specific mailing that I'm going to be doing. Very cool stuff. So let's go ahead and hit next. And what's going to happen next? It's going to generate a preview. And the preview is going to allow me to see, just kind of like a pretty much a proof of the card. Ooh, almost spilled my water there. If we click where it says view larger preview, this is going to give you a nice idea what the card's going to look like before it's printed. So this is pretty much your proof. Looks really good. It's super clean, very modern looking. And all I had to do is fill out essentially a form. So the form I filled out is just kind of populating the details. I added the photo, I added the listing information in, which it just auto-populated. And then all my info is going to appear here automatically because it's going to pull from my marketing profile. The next thing that I have to do is just fill out the payment option, and then you're all set. The one thing I also like is that if you do this before 3, it's gonna submit those for processing same day. So you'll be able to have those processed same day, have them delivered a little bit more quickly. All right, so yeah, that would essentially cover what I wanted to go over today. Was there any questions before I hop off of here? And I just want to make everybody aware my computer is like 5% battery, 10% rather. So I don't want to be cut off before somebody had a question. I see something in chat.
Is the training going to be on, so we can look over it again on Facebook?
Yeah, it will be. And then I'm also going to post it on our YouTube channel. So the Bergen County Partners YouTube channel, which I'm going to go to right now so you can see it. I'm going to have it posted there probably a little bit later today. And you will find that video here as well. So if you haven't already subscribed,
training. Thank you.
All good. Yeah. If you haven't already subscribed, definitely give it a go. Really trying to get us up to 1,000. We made it to 550, so we can get there. But again, if anybody had any questions or anything, you can feel free to reach out to me. But I will have this posted later. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Monday. It's super nice out.
Chris, before you go, this is not about what we went over today, but is there a link to the video that you did on DocuSign?
There is. Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Is it on that YouTube channel?
Yeah,
or?
it is. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. No, I'll just look for it. Thank you.
All right. All good. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
you.
Chris.
Bye.
Thank you.